My name is Marilyn Ritchie. I'm one of the organizers, and it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sorin Draghici. He's a program officer at the NSF, the National Science Foundation. We're really honored that he is our program officer for the grant that actually supports the travel of multiple students that are here at the meeting. And so we're really grateful for that. I know, especially with some of the funding situation, it's been really great to have funding to support the students and trainees who have papers and talks at the meeting. So Sorin is here now and going to give a short talk today.
All right, so thank you so much for the opportunity to give this presentation. So this is not going to be science. This is going to be about how to make the science possible. So basically, I want to start with some sources of information. This is a really good thing to do. You can sign up for the newsletter that comes from the National Science Foundation. Size is, at the moment, we'll see how that changes. But basically, we send one email every month or so, but it's really, really important information, right? So it's going to tell you about new solicitations, about changing procedures, and so on and so forth. So it's not going to flood your email box with junk, and it's not going to go anywhere else. So my recommendation is to sign up for this. So if you go to nsf.gov, at the bottom, that sign up there should get you signed up. What I want to cover today is kind of different prongs. I want to give you an idea about the situation at NSF. I want to clarify some information about what is happening at NSF. There are a lot of rumors going around, and I want to tell you what was real and was not, and give you the opportunity to ask questions. And of course, the thing you really care about, how are these changes going to impact your chances of getting funding? Then I want to showcase a couple of funding opportunities that I think are great for this particular community. So these are things that you can take advantage of. And if I have time, I have a couple of slides at the end with some general advice for those of you who are maybe more junior and they can use that. As Marilyn mentioned, tomorrow I have an hour and a half. I'll be happy to meet with you in smaller groups or individually. So feel free to ask any questions. When I was starting my career in research, I was begging to get the opportunity to talk to some people at NSF to find out about the process and opportunities and so on. And I would just send this email and say, oh, I'll be happening to be in the DC area on such and such week. Would you be available? So that's not quite possible right now, but here is your opportunity. I'm here. I can answer any questions you may have tomorrow. Okay, so in spite of anything else you may have heard, NSF is open for business. There are review panels in progress. I had 2 panels just before Christmas, before NSF closed. And NSF continues to be committed to maintaining the traditional high standards for review. So please keep submitting your proposals with your best science ideas. As I mentioned, there are lots of rumors going around, lots of changes. So I'm curious if you have heard any of this. One of them is that NSF is reorganizing and getting rid of divisions. Have you heard that? Yes. Well, this is true. Okay. So NSF is reorganizing, and the divisions are going to go away. NSF may not review proposals in the same way it did in the past. Raise your hand if you heard that. This is also true, and I'm going to go into that some of those changes in a few minutes. NSF is going to take longer than usual for the processing of these proposals. There may be fewer reviews, and the panel summary is shorter. Yes? Yes. Okay. By now, taking advantage of your neural network's ability to learn, you maybe guess the next one, the answer to the next one. So NSF is relocating to a new building. Yes. Okay, so NSF is currently moving from one building to another, so if you just go to the old building, you will not be allowed in, you will not have any NSF personnel in that building. The new building is not open yet, so as I said, you really do not have any other chance to meet with the NSF program director at the moment for an unclear length of time. All right, so there are two things that I want to touch on. One is the NSF reorganization, the other one is the merit review of your proposals. So this is kind of about size, information science and engineering. So this was started because it was, it came down as a mandate from the Office of Personnel Management. For those of you who are not familiar with it, this is the part of the government who deals with all the personnel problems across the entire federal government. So this is not an NSF thing. This came from the OPM, Office of Personnel Management. So basically the trigger was the fact that NSF has significantly fewer staff. That includes program directors. And that gave us the opportunity to take advantage of these changes to reorganize some of the scientific topics, identify synergies, and hopefully leverage cross-disciplinary overlaps among programs. The goal here and the opportunity is to create these structures that are more agile and can serve better the science of today and tomorrow. So basically, yes, things are changing. There's a new structure. The structure is still a little bit dynamic. But your programs are still there, and NSF is open for business, so please continue to submit your proposals, and you will get funded. This is a really important date. If you want to know more about what is happening, there's going to be an office hour. This is a Zoom meeting, so it's very low cost to attend. From 1 to 2 p.m., there will be some information presented and lots of opportunities to ask questions, okay? So my recommendation is to try to attend this one, January 22nd. All right. So how does this reorganization affect your proposals? So there are two key things here. So current solicitations and programs are open for submission. This is kind of a little bit redundant, right? If it's current, of course, it should be open, right? But it's really important when you look on the NSF side, looking for opportunities, you will see these solicitations, and the keyword there is archived, the first word in the second bullet. Archive solicitations are solicitations that do not receive proposals, okay? So you cannot get funded. And there are people that, well, I've worked on this and I was, and even if the solicitation says that this is going to be valid until 2027, 2026, so it doesn't matter. If it says archive, don't spend time working on that because that's actually not available anymore, okay? So look for things that do not have the word archive. The very best thing to do is to contact one of us, a program director. The best thing to do is to send a one-page summary, and we'll look at that, direct it to the right person if you didn't send it to the right person, and give you feedback and as to what's the best program and the best way to go about it. Okay? So looking forward, we really want to leverage these cross-disciplinary and new areas of science. And of course, the whole idea is to welcome the science of today and tomorrow. Speaking of the merit review reform, so the merit review is the process that your proposal goes to in order to reach a funding or rejection decision, okay? So basically the goals here are to increase the efficiency, consistency, and transparency, okay? There was a lot of variation across NSF. So if you send the same program to a certain division, to a certain program, you may get like a 5-page panel summary. and you get the reviews in a certain format. If you send it to a different division, different program, you may get only a one-page panel summary with a different format and so on and so forth. So that is, again, one of the things that we are trying to change. We want to automate as much as possible all the routine tasks in order to save time. As I said, everything is motivated by the lack of, well, the reduction in personnel. And we want to become more consistent as an agency, right? So there is no point in having those big differences from one program to another. One of the things that is changing is the number of reviews per proposal. The current, let's say, direction is that each proposal will have at least 2 reviews per proposal. And don't get, up in arms. That doesn't mean that the proposal will have 2 reviews per proposal. It only means that the minimum is 2 reviews per proposals. The 2 panels that I had the week before Christmas, I had 4 reviews per proposal for all but one of the proposals in those 2 panels. Okay, so I personally will continue to get as many reviews as possible because that's important for the quality of the review process. But do not be surprised if you get only 2 reviews back from your submission, okay? So we will continue to seek external reviews, so that will not change. Some of those may be so-called ad hoc reviews, so not necessarily part of a panel discussion. And there will be, so be warned, more use of return without review. So these are RWR, return without review. That's going to happen more. I just had, I think 2 weeks ago maybe, I heard from, I think it was Recomp, submitted a paper, and our paper was rejected without review because the left margin was different from the right margin, okay? So we are not, because my students got a LaTeX template that was formatted in a different way, and because the 2 margins were not equal, they didn't want to even review it. So we are not going to go to things that are like this. I think that's a little bit absurd to me. But if, for instance, the solicitation requires certain elements, like a mentoring plan, right? Before, it used to be the case that if you had a postdoc, you had to submit a mentoring plan, to include a mentoring plan in your proposal. Now that has been extended to any graduate students. So basically, almost every proposal, unless you want to do the work yourself, with no graduate students and no postdocs, you have to have a mentoring plan. So those kind of things, if your proposal doesn't have a mentoring plan, it will be returned without review, because that's a required element, right? The same thing for solicitations that require a data management plan or things like that, a letter for the career proposals, letter from the department head, things like that, right? So those elements that are mentioned as compulsory in the solicitations, if they are not there, your proposal is not going to be reviewed, okay? The panels are going to be changed. Some of you have participated in some of the panels that I have done in the past few months. It used to be the case that we spent a lot of time, like many hours, trying to put together a very comprehensive, very nice panel summary that would capture the discussion that happened in the panel about that proposal. That has changed because the amount of time spent on these panel summaries was excessive, many hours, as I said. So the new format is going to be much, much briefer, just 3 to 5 sentences. So if you submitted a proposal and you get a proposal back with a decision, whatever the decision is, and your panel summary is only 3 phrases, don't feel that, oh, these people ignored my proposal or they didn't treat it right or whatever, because all my proposals in the past 2-3 years got like 2 pages panel summaries, and now I only get 1 paragraph, then they must have not treated it right. So this is the new format, okay? So this would allow us to have more time for actually discussing the proposals. And there is another thing. There is no point in having a lot of discussion for the proposal that are either very high or very low, right? So if a proposal has, poor, what's the point of discussing that, right? So that can be triaged. We can also, in principle, we can also have a triage at the other end. If a proposal has excellent, 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 again, there is not much point in spending hours trying to discuss that and everybody saying how enthusiastic about that proposal they are, because that's already captured in the individual reviews, right? So you will continue to receive the individual reviews, but more proposals will be triaged, okay? And keep in mind the panel summaries are going to be shorter. This is something that I have to confess with shame that I was not aware of before I went to NSF. This is the most important document on the NSF website. It's called PABG. We refer to it as PABG. This is the document that clarifies the procedures for everything that happens at NSF, right? Submitting the proposal, the award process, but then all the other things that happen, not so frequently, but they happen regularly, which is you change the institution. What do you need to do? What does the old institution need to do? What does the new institution need to do? What do you personally need to do? And so on and so forth, right? You receive, let's say, a non-restricted award from a private organization. Does that impact your thing, right? So conflicts of interest, everything. So this is a really, really important document that you should treat as the reference for any question which is a little bit non-standard, any situation that is a little bit non-standard, and maybe you haven't encountered before, the answer is probably in the PABG. And there is a new update as of December 8th, so just a couple of weeks old. This is the link to it. You can find it on the NSF site. Okay, so there are some procedures. I don't have the time to go through the changes, but please consult this for any questions. Okay, I want to talk very briefly about some opportunities, funding opportunities, and I want to start by making clear the difference between a solicitation and a Dear Colleague letter, which is the acronym is DCL, right? So both are ways for NSF to communicate to the community areas in which we want to invest, to fund research. Both of them are going to look the same. The format is going to have more or less the same sections. Both of them are going to include one or more areas of interest. However, the difference is that the solicitation will have a budget, and usually you see something like estimated number of proposals to be funded, budget limits, and so on and so forth. The DCLs do not have a budget, okay? So again, if you have something that you're looking at, the funding opportunity, that's the first question you should ask yourself. Is it a solicitation or is it a DCL? And again, just that's part of our job. Get in touch with us, tell us what you want to do, and we can direct you and help you get funded. Here is another important opportunity. So this is a Dear Colleague letter, which is a little bit different. This is not about a funding opportunity. This is NSF seeking your input about how to improve what NSF is doing. So this is your opportunity to, if you ever thought, well, I wish NSF did things in a different way, this is your opportunity to get that across, okay? So if you think that you have some ideas about the challenges and opportunities that may influence NSF's progress towards this goal, how those could be addressed, or what organization could or should NSF partner with, what existing data or evidence should NSF consider in developing the mechanism to evaluate progress, measure, and so on and so forth, its own goals, right? And what any other information you can think of that would assist NSF in achieving the goals in its own strategic plan. So this is going to be a DCL. If you have any ideas, this is a great opportunity to make those, get them to be considered. All right, here are some specific funding opportunities. I picked three, one from the bio division, so biology. So the first one is a core program, says enable discovery through genomics. And I put here, feel free to wait until the end, maybe take a picture, or you can just look it up. So all these, I think, are great opportunities for people in this community. They are all research opportunities about people doing some kind of computational work at the interface with life sciences, okay? So this is one of them. Emerging mathematics in biology, it's another one. And leveraging cyber infrastructure for research data management is another one. So if you, all sorts of databases or online systems that you may want to develop to put together for the community, that's an opportunity there. Finally, the molecular and cellular biosciences has some core programs. That's another opportunity. Those are in the bio, which is really not my division. In science, which is my division, it used to be, we had these core solicitations. Now, this is the new version of it. It's called Future Core. That's the URL for it. So basically, that's the kind of R01 equivalent. So you can come up with any idea that you want. This is PI. Your imagination is the limit there. But the best way to do this is to send one page, not two, not five, not the whole proposal, one page to one program director, okay? This is the right way of doing things. The wrong way of doing things is to send the same, to send 3 pages to every one program director in the division. Believe me, we talk to each other, okay? I know it may seem strange, but we talk to each other. Even if you send it to me, even if it's not my area, I know exactly who to direct this to. I'm going to send it to that person, and that person will be in touch. Or I put you in touch directly with that person, and it goes from there, okay? But just you are not increasing your chances of getting funded, especially as a junior faculty. You are not increasing your chances if you send it to 10 program directors. If anything, it's a little bit the other way around, because you show that you couldn't be bothered to find out who the right person is that you should talk to. Okay, so, all right. So do your homework, find the right program director. Okay, another really, really good program that I strongly recommend is this Smart and Connected Health. And this is very interesting because it is run jointly by NSF and NIH. Okay, how many people here are funded by NIH? Okay, how many people are funded by NSF? Okay. I like that. So much fewer people funded by NSF, okay? Now I'm going to ask somebody who is funded by NIH. Why did you go to NIH? Anybody wants to volunteer?
Bigger budget.
Thank you, okay. So bigger awards, right? So, well, guess what? So with this program, you have one submission, and your proposal is going to be considered by both funding agencies, okay? So this is going to be a process that is conducted entirely, the review process is conducted entirely at NSF. However, there is NIH personnel involved, and each proposal is going to have both an NSF rating and an NIH priority score, okay? And it's going to be eligible for both NSF and NIH funding. So basically, it's one great opportunity, in my opinion, to do the work once, and it's like submitting 2 proposals to two different agencies at the same time, right? And the amount of money is consistent with the NIH standard, right? So basically, the process is the proposals are reviewed at NSF. There are some, again, the 2 scoring systems, NSF and NIH. And then we program directors from NSF, talk to our colleagues, program directors from NIH, and they express interest in funding some of these proposals. And those PIs are contacted, and they are invited to submit a proposal to NIH. And that's where you're going to jump on me and say, but you just said I don't need to resubmit. You don't. It's just a one page, basically, to get your proposal into the NIH system. Okay, you don't need to rewrite the proposal. It does not go through another review process. It does not do anything. It's just to get into the IT system that NIH can process it, right? So, and you can get funded by, that's going to be an R01, right? So you can get funded by NIH, even though you applied to NSF, okay? And for those that are not suitable for NIH, then we at NSF can pick some of those and fund them at NSF. The same order of magnitude. It's not that you get less money if you, right? So the budget is the budget that you submit. So, Okay, so I have 2 more minutes. So the question is, okay, these are questions that I hear all the time, especially from the junior people, so I apologize to them, to those of you who know all this stuff. Where should you apply, right? Where should I apply? Should I send it to NIH? Should I send my work to NIH, or should I send to NSF? Well, the rule of thumb there is NIH is going to be interested in anything that is, the scope is one human disease, right? If it's one human disease, you send it to NIH or to Smart Health, right? Smart Health is one exception, but in principle, if it has to do with one disease and it's a human disease, you send it to NIH. If it's more than one disease, more than one organism, then it starts to become less interesting for NIH. Basically, they're not going to fund it unless you have a really clear relevance to one particular human disease, and it becomes good for NSF, right? But within NSF, we have these different parts, and each part has a different scope, right? So when should you send it to bio versus science versus chemistry versus some other division, right? The divisions that are not going to be there anymore. So the question is, let's say that I come up with the best, some new algorithms to process single-cell data, okay? And I think that this is going to change the face of the earth. All of a sudden, we're going to get this new science out of all this single-cell data, right? Well, I can present that in my proposal in a number of different ways, right? So one of them, I can say, well, here are some new algorithms, and this is what they do, and this is why they're great, and the deliverable here is going to be a set of packages in bioconductor or Python or whatever, right? So I'm going to provide some code, right? So that, you have to think about it. Who's your audience? Who's going to benefit from that, right? So if you put it like that, that's the people who are going to be interested in that are the kind of bioinformaticians, computer scientists kind of folks, right? Like us here, right? And that should go to science, because that's information science and engineering, right? If you send it to bio, the reviewers are going to be life scientists, and they're going to say, well, what am I going to do with a bunch of R code? I don't know, R whatever. They are going to not appreciate the value of what you are doing, right? However, you can take exactly the same research, exactly the same work, and present it in a different way. You say, I have these great algorithms, I'm going to process all this public data that is available out there, and the outcome is going to be this repository in which you are going to be able to select by organism, tissue type, and so on, and you are going to see all these great things about your organism and tissue, right? So all of a sudden, that is going to become very important for the life scientists. If you send it to science people, they are going to say, meh, all right? If you send it to the life scientists, they are going to be really enthusiastic because that's something they can see themselves using, right? So the point is, you have to choose where to send it based on your target audience, right? So make it appealing. So if you want, and make it consistent as well. Don't use the title, a new algorithm for the analysis of single-cell data, and then say the deliverable is a repository, or the other way around, right? So make it the title, the abstract, the problem description, and the deliverable, everything has to be consistent, okay? So I have a bunch of do's and don'ts, but I want to be respectful of your time, so I'll stop here. Again, I'll be happy to talk to any of you tomorrow. Thank you. If there are maybe quick questions.